Hi, everyone. Welcome to the At Hurst Mom podcast. I'm Lauren Rose, and today we're talking to Gemma McFall. In the face of constant stress and enduring a decade of intense back pain, Gemma persevered through failed medications, ineffective spinal injections, and the looming fear of a life bound to a wheelchair. But here's the incredible part. She emerged on the other side stronger than ever before. Today, she stands as living proof that healing is not just a possibility, but a reality. Her days are now filled with energetic pursuits such as running, cycling, and swimming, a testament to her thriving and active lifestyle. Gemma's mission is to share her remarkable journey and guide you towards uncovering your own strengths. Gemma is a certified PCC ICF coach, a Gallup Strengths coach, and is the only SERPA-trained practitioner of mind-body healing in the Middle East. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Lauren. I'm super excited after listening to loads of your episodes. I'm really keen to share whatever I can today to help those that are listening.
Thank you. I think it's going to be really an interesting episode. So let's just start and tell us about your journey with chronic pain.
Thank you. So I had a niggling back pain when I was 26 and lower back pain. Following a kind of a dance injury, I would say, and it progressively got worse over the course of 10 years. And I hardly noticed it getting worse until it was really quite bad. So we lived in Dubai during this period. I was working full time, and during this time I had my two kids. And then we moved to Sri Lanka with my husband's job, and the pain. By this point, just to put it into perspective, by this point, I was having injections in my spine just to, mean that I could carry on with the day. I spent a lot of time just lying on my back because it was the only position that felt like my back was decompressing and going, I was just in a really bad way, and medication didn't touch it. I'd been to physios, osteopaths. And I'd started to see surgeons who had suggested I needed surgery, and I got a second opinion. Actually, I got three opinions, and they all gave me different things. One said a microdiscectomy, another one was some kind of fusion thing. I can't remember. There was like three completely different solutions that they'd come up with. But then I was desperate. Honestly, I would have done anything. And I found a surgeon that was willing to operate. He was based in Singapore. I was in Sri Lanka. And I was planning to fly out there, have the surgery, and come back and leave the kids, which was a big deal for me because my littlest at that point was only 6 months and the other one was 1 and a bit. But the insurance company blocked it, and then they wouldn't cover it. And the reason is because that particular hospital was very famous for just doing quick surgeries, having never met the patient. But this was kind of the turning point for everything, because then somebody said, you know what, you should read this book. And it was on the mind-body approach to healing. And by about the second or third chapter, I was like, yes, this is it. This is it. I could get rid of my own back pain. And because I was training to be a coach at the time, I used all of the coaches that I was friends with. We would coach each other. And I basically kind of worked my way through all these topics and subjects and things, whilst at the same time educating myself on the science behind chronic pain. And I would say within about 3 months, I had my first pain-free day. It wasn't perfect, and it took probably a good year until I didn't think about the pain at all, but it was incredible. So that's where it all started, in a nutshell.
What was the book that you read?
It was called Healing Back Pain by John Sarno. And
Dr. Sarno.
Yeah, so Sarno was like the pioneer of he called it TMS, tension myotosis syndrome, and it's basically the brain is misfiring signals causing you to have pain, when the actual place where you think you had pain, in my case it was the lower back, the injury is long since fixed itself. But he talked a lot about how MRI scans will show damage on your spine, and then you go, oh, there's damage on my spine. And then you associate that damage with the pain, and then it puts you into like this pain fear cycle. And you're going, the more fear you have, the more pain you have, and so on and so on. But then he points out that just because you see something on an MRI scan does not mean that that is where the pain comes from. It's actually normal to have an abnormal MRI scan. It would be very unusual at my age now to see an MRI scan that looks perfect. So it was mind-blowing for me, mind-blowing. But yeah, I guess I was just lucky I found that at the right time.
No, that's awesome. I had a pain coach on another episode, and um, what one thing I learned from her was exactly what you just said, that just because you have something abnormal on your scans doesn't mean that's going to translate into pain. In fact, a lot of people have abnormal scans and they don't have pain, and a lot of people have normal scans and they do have pain.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
definitely a huge myth.
Yeah, the research is mind-blowing. And it always surprised me afterwards that no surgeon, I saw so many of my MRI scans over the years, and no surgeon ever said the words to me, it is normal to have an abnormal MRI scan. They would just zoom in on the bit that they could see. And you know what? It was funny because even if the pain is on the right and the injury, I say injury, like you can see some kind of damage on the MRI scan, that might be on the left. You still go, oh yeah, it must be that. It must be from that. But that
Right.
could have been there for years. And it's just like how our hair goes grey. So too does your spine's not going to be perfect, is it? Your whole body just, over time, breaks down.
Absolutely. It's just, part of getting older.
Mm.
So you had really young kids when you had some of this really bad back pain. How did your pain affect your ability to be a mom?
Um, this is a very interesting question because I had pain before I got pregnant. And then when I was pregnant with my first son, my first son, I've only got one son. When I got pregnant with my son, I had, for the majority of the pregnancy, I didn't have any pain. And then when he was born, again, the pain came. And the same thing happened with my daughter. I had pain until I got pregnant. Then when I was pregnant, no pain. And then after she was born, really, really bad pain. Like it came back with a vengeance after she was born. I remember one day waking up and not actually being able to get out of bed. So yeah, it was really interesting. And I justified it by saying, oh, it's because my spine was in a different angle when I was pregnant. And now I think about how absolutely ridiculous that sentence is, but I believed it. But the truth of it is that I was distracted. Like I had something else to think about. I was pregnant. I was focused on that. I'm sure it would have been more likely that the neural pathways of pain just gave me a break for a while. But then when they were born, when my daughter was 6 months, we moved to Sri Lanka, which was very stressful. I don't know if you've been to Sri Lanka, but it's like it's a developing country. The pavements, you can't push a pushchair along the pavements. They're all broken, and you have to kind of like go up and down. There's there's just hazards everywhere. Like you just can't easily get around. And to do the shopping, you need to go to loads of different shops just to get what you need. So it's kind of a stressful place to live, although it's a little bit better now. It's beautiful, but complicated as an expatriate. And so the kids, like I used to lie on the floor and they would crawl around my head. But sitting down with them, actually sitting down and playing, I couldn't do it all. I either had to lie on my front or lie on my back and play with them. But then later, when I understood the whole mind-body stuff, I could also see there was a direct correlation between what the kids were doing and my back pain. So because you always need to be looking for evidence of something that's putting you in fight or flight, that's triggering the pain. And then, the actual, like making the connection. And I realized when my daughter was crying in the night, I would wake up and I'd be like, oh, and I'd wake up with back pain. And her crying is what was setting it off. And then when they're a little bit older, I realized bedtime is like 7:15, and I would have like relatively stable pain, like not too much, and then at 7:15 from nowhere pain would go through the roof. And of course I justified it because I was like, oh, because it's bedtime, because it's evening, I've been on my feet all day, it's natural to have back pain at night time. And then I realized, now I know what I know about the nervous system, it's the stress of putting the kids to bed. Because I would say it's 7:15, it's bedtime. And of course, they're like toddlers and they didn't do what I wanted them to do. And so that would trigger the pain so much. But the minute I made that association, it stopped happening. So the 7:15 back pain just went away. So the more times you make the association, you can realize what it is, the easier it is to break the pain fear cycle.
So you've given some examples of kind of how you started feeling better. What exactly is the mind-body approach to healing, and how does it work?
That is a big question. So the mind-body approach to healing is, I can tell you how I do it with clients because I've made it into kind of a process. So I've created like a 4-step process, 4 P's to make it easy. So the first one is pain and understanding the science behind pain. So pain is an alarm signal that's telling us we need to do something. But sometimes that pain signal is going off for the wrong reason, when it shouldn't. And so it's learning to recognize, like for me, it was the 7:15 bedtime thing. It's learning to recognize, I don't actually need to be scared right now. It's only bedtime. There's not an actual tiger that's going to come and attack me. It's just 2 toddlers that won't go to bed. And learning to kind of see the association. So I created something called an evidence log. So when I have pain, what's actually going on emotionally? Maybe I'm doing something I don't want to do, like I'm people pleasing or something. So that's the first thing, is to understand the science. And like you mentioned, that other lady that talked about the back pain research, I share tons and tons and tons of research with clients, because unless you understand and believe that your pain is what we call neuroplastic pain, which is the brain misfiring, if you can't get your head around the science, then every time you feel pain, you're going to be on high alert. And you see what I mean? So we have to break the pain fear cycle through knowledge. And so now I do corporate workshop purely on that first P, pain. So I educate people in the workplace, the link between stress, anxiety, and chronic pain. So that's P, the first P, pain. The second P is personality, because there's certain personality types that are way more susceptible to getting chronic pain. This is where, certain personality types are more stress-inducing. So, for example, people who are very empathetic, high achievers, very analytical people, people who take responsibility for everything all the time, perfectionists, you know, this sort of, I can see you nodding. That's
like, yep, that's me.
Yeah. So yeah, this is the second thing. So I use a tool called Gallup Strengths to help people figure out who they are and why they think, feel, and behave the way they do. Because once we know who we are, we can start to use our personality in a way that's going to help us rather than a way that's going to trigger us. The last thing I want to do is change anyone's personality, but I just help people to see who they are and just be the best version of themselves. And also I find this really key for mums with pain, because a lot of people, we lose our identity. I mean, I was like the girl with the back pain. I don't even know if people knew my name when I moved to Sri Lanka. It was just the girl with the back pain. And so this helps you figure out like who you are beyond the pain. So that's the second P, personality. The third P is past, because I know from listening to your previous episodes, you've talked before about that there's a direct correlation between past trauma and current pain. and there's a lot of research that backs this up. You only need to have a few things of trauma in your past to create basically your body still thinks it needs to be in fight or flight because it was when you were a child. So and it's funny that we use the word trauma because it doesn't even need to be big trauma. It could just be that you had a parent that was a perfectionist and you were trying to always be a perfect child, or it could just be really small stuff, but it follows through to when you're an adult, annoyingly. So that's the third P, past. And then the fourth P is practical things. So, and again, I've heard this on your podcast, things that you can do in the moment to get yourself out of the pain fear cycle, whether it's breathing, meditation, physically shaking your body. Yoga nidra is one I do a lot. Journaling. I mean, there's so many things that you can do to get your body regulated, like the nervous system, to come down. But the thing is, unless you understand the science behind pain, no amount of practical techniques is going to help, because you're still going to have in the back of my mind, I've got a slip disc, or I've got fibromyalgia, or I've got migraines because they run in the family, or it's because of a sporting injury. Like, while these stories are going around in your mind, no amount of practical tips is going to make any difference. That makes sense? So that's the fourth P.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And I love how it all goes together. And it's all stuff that I've kind of heard bits and pieces from different sources. I don't know that I've ever heard it put all together like that. So that's really good information.
Thank you.
So, I think it was in your bio, you mentioned that you still get random symptoms and you're thankful for these signals. What do you mean by being thankful for them?
So, for example, a couple of weeks ago, I had a kind of like a niggling migraine. It kind of went across the front of my head, behind my eyes. And the thing is, because I know a migraine is a mind-body condition. If it's to do with nerves, 100% it's a mind-body condition. So as soon as I feel a headache, the first thing now is I don't panic, because I know it's a mind-body condition. All I need to do is follow the 4 Ps and maybe do practical things, figure out what emotionally is happening right now for me that's making my body think it needs to be in fight or flight. And so I knew what it was. I'm living in Dubai and it is so hot right now. It's like 38 degrees. It is so hot. You can't even like walk anywhere. It's that hot. And I've just come back from a summer in the UK where I had all this fresh air and trees. And so I was just feeling really, really trapped. So I'm in my house and I'm super trapped, and I'm not getting the fresh air I need. And I know that's what it is. So one evening, was it an evening? No, it was a morning. I said to my husband, I said, I don't care how hot it is, I'm going for a run. And I put my trainers on and I went for a 5K run. It was, I can't explain how hot it is here, but it's ridiculous. It's like running in a sauna. And I went for this 5K run and I came back and the migraine's gone. It's literally gone. And so, like, that's why I'm grateful, because it's telling me I've got to do something. I'm not happy. Consciously, I felt happy, but the migraine's telling me something's missing here. And usually for me, migraine means I need to have more fun, need to let my hair down, I need to do something for me. Even as silly as this sounds, even going and getting my nails done can sometimes get rid of a migraine. And it's not about the nails, it's about doing something that's just for me. Back pain is, I hardly ever get back pain, but sometimes I'll get a little twinge, and usually it's because the kids are winding me up. So I need to put myself in time out. It's not them, it's always me. So I need to just go and then move away and do some breathing or whatever to get out of it. So yeah, I'm super grateful for this little signal, because I know if I had not discovered neuroplastic pain, I would have ignored the migraine. Migraine would have developed into something else. This is how chronic pain works. If you don't listen to the body, it'll give you another symptom, another symptom, another symptom. And if it's a symptom you can't see and it's inside your body somewhere, I would never know. So yeah, that's why I'm grateful.
And that makes sense. And I love that perspective because I talk about all the time how pain is a communication tool. It's just trying to tell us something, you know, whether that we need to go get a snack or we need to deal with, unprocessed trauma or we need to let out our emotions. Something is telling us something, or our kids are driving us crazy.
Yeah. Or husband.
Or, yeah. So, how can a person get started with the mind body approach?
So the first thing, well, it kind of goes in that order of the 4 Ps. The first thing is to research and learn as much as you possibly can about the science behind pain. And this is not something that you'll find on Netflix, or do you have Netflix in America? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's not something that you're going to find on Netflix. It's not something that's going to be made readily available by your doctor, because this stuff is not really taught at medical school right now. It takes 20 years for the science and research to filter all the way down to the point where they teach it at medical school so that they can then tell you, which is annoying. But I haven't got 20 years to wait. So I mentioned that book earlier. There is actually another book now that can I recommend? It's not my book. I wish I was an author.
Yeah,
There's a book
please.
that I recommend to all my clients. It's called The Way Out by Alan Gordon. And the reason I like this is the Sarno book, the science in it is ever so slightly outdated, although it's still a great book. This one I just suggested works across all types of chronic pain. So whether it's fibromyalgia, migraines, back pain, neck pain, pelvic pain, skin rashes, whatever it is, this book is relevant, and it's a really easy, simple to read book. Now, I would say what would happen is somebody would read that book and they would either go, yes, this is me. And as they're reading it, like I did, they'll be, the more they read, the more they'll be like, oh, this makes so much sense. In which case, then you're on the right path, and then probably need to get help with the other piece, because it's not easy to coach yourself. You're not going to ask yourself difficult questions, and you can't hold space for yourself to go to those places to process the emotions. Because I mean, we can with journaling, but if there's bigger things, you probably need someone by your side to do that. So yeah, I would definitely recommend that book as a starting point. Yeah.
No, that's great. I've heard of Alan Gordon also. So these are John Sarno and Alan Gordon are big names, I think, in the chronic pain community.
Yeah, the other one I would throw out there is Howard Schubner. He's been absolutely pioneering with the work he's done. He's more back pain, but yeah.
No, awesome. I'll look at him too. So what kinds of lessons have you learned on this journey of yours?
Oh, so many. You know, I used to be a HR director throughout the time I had pain. And I would go on a lot of corporate training courses. And you know what it's like. You get put through all these work-related courses. But I think having chronic pain and going through it and coming out the other side has been hands down the best personal development I have ever had. And I am nothing like the person I was before the pain. And I would say the area I notice it the most is parenting and marriage. Like I am 10 times the mum I now than I was before. It's really hard to explain, but like I'm calmer. I have fun with them. I'm not trying to control bedtime so strictly. Yeah, and I'm so grateful for them, and I'm so grateful for my health. And same with marriage. Like I think when you have chronic pain, or at least when I had chronic pain, it's hard for a partner of the person living with pain. There's not a lot they can do. Like the most my husband could do, because he's 6'4", he used to pick me up and kind of dangle me like a child to try and get my spine to loosen up. But that's about all he could do to help me. And so now, yeah, I'm just like so much happier in the marriage, and I always was happy, but Like now we don't talk about pain all the time. Now we talk about holidays and running and cycling and stuff. So yeah.
And it must be a huge relief for him because I know men like to fix things, and there isn't much that they can do for a person living with chronic pain. So I'll bet he's just
Yeah.
very relieved.
Yeah. And actually one of the first tips I give to clients is when you discover this mind-body approach, the last thing you want is a partner that you're living with that's constantly telling you to be careful, watch out, don't lift that, don't do that. Because if your partner is trying to warn you to be careful, then you're going to stay in the fight or flight thing, in this pain fear cycle. So there's a very clear rule that don't talk about pain, and don't ask, like I said to him, don't ask me about the pain at all. Don't bring the topic up. If for any reason I need to mention it to you, I will. But from now on, I'm on this mind body thing. And it was a real game changer, that one thing, taking the word pain out of conversations,
Yeah, I wouldn't know what that was like because I mean,
Exactly.
yeah. How do you go through a day full of pain and not talk about the pain? That must have been really difficult at first.
It was, but even the word pain, like I would, at the very most, I'd call it a sensation or
Hmm.
an alarm or something, because that's all it is. It's just tell you know this, but I get from all your episodes, I've heard this. It's just trying to tell you something. And I think when a partner is trying to protect you by saying, "Oh, are you okay? Do you want me to pass you something? What can I do to help you?" When they treat you like you have pain, well, at least when he used to speak to me like I had pain, I would then act more like I had pain, because it feels nice when someone's kind of supporting you in that way. It feels really nice, especially if you've been looking after the kids all day and then suddenly he's there offering all this help. But yeah, getting out of that cycle made a huge difference.
Yeah, one of the things that I've learned from the Curable app, which is for people with chronic pain, is not to call it pain, call it a discomfort or a sensation or something like that, because by labeling it pain, you're putting judgment on it that it's a negative thing, and your brain is
Yes.
automatically fearing the pain because of that. So I think that's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. The Curable app's excellent. That's yeah, I recommend that to a lot of people. Yeah.
Yeah, I've started on it. I haven't I don't know, I haven't gotten too far on it, but I need to recommit to it a little bit better.
Yeah. Although, one of the things with this neuroplastic pain, the more we try to get rid of the pain, the more it sticks around. And I
Hmm.
know that sounds really counterintuitive, but if we're trying to chase it away, it's going to shout louder. So it's kind of like a balancing act of like, get on with your life, figure out who you are without the pain, do something that's going to light you up, and then keep on learning about the science behind pain to sort of settle your nervous system. But don't turn healing into a full-time job, because that in itself will keep you trapped in this pain fear cycle.
That's probably a really good point. Yeah.
Mm.
So what advice do you have for people living with chronic pain right now?
What advice are there? You know what? This might be a bit controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway because I know that it really will help. If you're on a Facebook group for people with your condition, get off it. Just
Mm,
get off it. Because if you're on a Facebook group or any other community where everybody has something in common with you, it feels really, really nice. You feel validated, you feel safe, you feel seen, and it's like they're the only people in the world that get you. But we become the average of the people we spend the most time with. And if you're surrounded by people who truly believe I cannot heal from my condition, the surgeon says I can't heal, or because it's fibromyalgia, there's no way I can heal. If you're surrounded by people with those beliefs, of course you're not going to be able to recover from it. So as a first stop, I'd get off all those groups. That's the biggest advice I would give. It's huge, like that one single thing. And join Facebook groups in a subject that's going to light you up: gardening, sewing, parenting. Well, actually, parenting groups can be a bit stressful, but you know what I mean? Something, what's your interest before you had pain? And do that. Throw yourself into books and magazines and things that are nothing to do with your condition. Stop researching the specific condition that we believe that we have, and start going down the mind body route. And yeah, I know there'll be people listening to this and they won't like that advice. I'm sorry, but it is important.
No, I think that's really interesting. I'm part of a bunch of those groups because when I was getting out of my grief process from having chronic pain, I joined a lot of those groups because I wanted the community. I wanted to feel not so alone. But at this point, when I'm hopeful maybe that I can heal myself, maybe that is a good idea.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And read success stories of people that have healed. Like I've shared some with you from fibromyalgia. Part of my recovery, I read over and over again of people that had got rid of back pain, because the more I could see myself in other people's stories, the closer I got. Like, yeah, it's really, really crucial.
yeah, and I don't believe that I'm particularly special. I think I'm just a normal person. So I don't think there's anything so rare and wrong with me that some of these things wouldn't work.
Yeah.
So that's another perspective I'm trying to have. Like, I'm just another normal person. I'm not rare or special in any kind of way. Maybe if other people can heal, maybe I can too.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And but it's interesting because as humans, it's a natural thing to want to be rare and special and unique. It's a normal thing for humans to want to feel like that. So I can totally see why that's a comfortable place to be. And
Yeah.
also there's something very satisfying when a doctor says to you, you have such and such wrong with you, because you can go, yes, finally somebody knows what's wrong with me, and you can write it down and you can say, I have blah 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 blah. And for some people it's like, I've got this and I've got this and I've got this, and it's validating to have a what you call it, a diagnosis. But if actually, I tell you at the end of what's on my website for this, but if you can get the right diagnosis of, I have neuroplastic pain, it will change the whole direction of the journey that you're on. But to get that diagnosis, you've got to be willing to let go of the others.
And I know that's hard. It's going to be hard. I don't know that I've completely let go, but I've got some hope. So I think I'm willing to try.
Yeah, I'm going to call you every week.
So where can we get more information about you and about what you do?
So I have a website, which is just my name. It's Gemma McFall. And on that website, I have a free assessment. And basically, it takes you through the 4 Ps. So there's questions about your pain. For example, does your pain come and go? Is it different in the mornings and the evenings? Various different questions. And the more you answer yes, the more likely it is that your pain is neuroplastic. There's questions about, it's got all the personality types that are most susceptible to chronic pain. And again, the more you answer yes, the more likely that this approach could help. Questions about your past to help you realize potential things that may have started this whole process. Yeah, so you go through that, and it will just help you to see, could this approach help me? And you can do that before you even buy the book. It's free. So
Awesome. Are you on social media?
I am on LinkedIn because I do a lot of corporate work around this with companies, both remotely and in person. So if there's anyone listening that wants this in their corporate environment, let me know. I dabble with Instagram, but to be honest, Instagram is a trigger for my own chronic pain. As we know, social media is a trigger for everyone. Well, I would love to meet someone who's it's not a trigger for. So I do post on there from time to time. So I do have a page, but I'm a bit, a bit hit and miss whether I put stuff on there.
Yeah, me too. On mine. Well, thank you so much for coming on. It's been really interesting.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's been, yeah, I could talk about this for hours. It's a
Yeah,
topic that is so important to me. I'm really on a mission to help as many people discover this as possible. So, yeah,
yeah,
thank you.
you're definitely very passionate. I like it.
Thanks.
And make sure to subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss any health, parenting, or life advice. For my freebie, 30 ways to relieve pain without taking a pill, go to ithurtstomom.com/tips. If you have comments, suggestions, or want to be on this podcast, email me at ithurtstomom@gmail.com. I wish everybody a blessed and pain-free day. Bye. Hi, this is Lauren Rose from the It Hurts to Mom podcast. Did you know that up to 80% of our physical pain is actually from emotional pain? Don't miss your opportunity to get my new workbook called Exploring How Your Emotions Relate to Your Physical Pain. In it, you'll consider how trauma, trapped emotions, grief, and lack of forgiveness might be contributing to your chronic pain. This is not to say your pain isn't real. Actually, it's the opposite. Your pain, emotional and physical, is very real. It's only to say that there's a significant mind-body connection that most of us don't realize. Get your workbook today for only $7 at ithurtstomom.com under the shop category, because once you determine the connection, you might be surprised at the extent that emotions are contributing to your pain, and then you can start to heal what's trapped inside. And while you're there, don't forget my freebie, 30 Ways to Relieve Pain Without Taking a Pill, at ithurtstomom.com.